I'm Leon Lovelace, and this is Unstoppable Force. Okay, it's time for me to criticize Bernie Sanders. I don't think I've done it yet. Well, I've done it quite a while ago, but I need to do it again because even though I love Bernie, a lot of the progressive journalists love Bernie, like Cenk Uygur, Jordan Chariton, Niko House, Tim Black, H.A. Goodman. There's a few more, but yeah, we all love Bernie. But he's not perfect. I'm not perfect. No man or no woman's perfect. So, as a journalist, whenever I see, moves that politicians are doing that's wrong or incorrect or I think's bad move, I gotta tell you. That's my role. And right now, there's a few things I think Bernie Sanders is fucking up on. One of them is that he gave 100 grand to the DNC in May because he was going on the Unity tour with Tom Perez. And at first, I didn't like it because all they did was screw his ass over in the primaries. And they did it, and I think they also pushed the mainstream media to just frame it as it was just Hillary's run and Bernie had no shot. So, mostly the DNC, because they had the direct correlation with making sure Bernie couldn't win. But then, along with the corporate media, really pushed Hillary to, fraudulently win the Democratic primaries over Bernie. And then he's given them money to help them out, just a few months later. So that's really a big flaw with Bernie right now that I have a problem with. Another thing I had a problem with Bernie was him going on the Unity tour with Tom Perez in the first place, because Democratic Party's corrupt. They're still kicking and fighting to stay corrupt and make sure as progressives can't take over the party. All the like the DNC members, they don't even have any access to information from the heads of the DNC and any of the financial transactions that are going on. Even the DNC members can't get access to see what the heads are doing. So it's really problematic. And Sam Ronan, he was actually running as a progressive, and he was running more progressive than Keith Ellison was for the DNC chair. So I was hoping that Sam Ronan would get a few votes, because some of the people would say, you know what, he's probably going to push this DNC to a more progressive place than even Keith Ellison would. But no, they're too centrist and they're too fucking neoliberal. So they said no. They're going to go with Tom Perez. So Tom Perez got a few more votes over Keith Ellison. And Keith Ellison, he was really the lesser of two evils. I mean, he's more progressive than Tom Perez. I would have preferred Keith Ellison over Tom Perez, but he still would have been a problem running the DNC. He still wouldn't have really fixed a lot of the core issues that are going on with the DNC, especially with taking lobbyist money and having lobbyists being members of the DNC and having leadership positions, which really makes their roles in the DNC just full of corruption, because they have conflicts of interest all over the fucking place. And I'm not so sure he would have really cleaned that shit up. I mean, like, real quick. Just kick their asses out. Really fired everybody in the fucking building, because it wasn't just Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Donna Brazile that had to go. Pretty much everybody in there has to be fucking fired. But I'm not really convinced that Keith Ellison would have went in that direction. But instead of Keith Ellison, saying, what, I'm going to fight against the DNC because they're not really going in the progressive direction we need them to. He took some bullshit position that they just created, I guess, just to appease some of the progressives a little bit by saying, oh, well, we're giving you a little bit of milk toast, we're reaching across and going to give you a little bit of platitudes by giving Keith Ellison this new position. which is ridiculous. Then I was thinking maybe he was playing a little 3D chess and really going across the country with Tom Perez next to him and actually really revealing that he's a progressive and they're the people that you really got to fucking leave. So I was like, maybe he's doing that by talking about single payer while Tom Perez next to him couldn't even fucking say the public option, adding on the public option to the Affordable Care Act. So, I mean, it's pretty drastic how much those two talk about, some of the issues right next to each other. So even though it's looking like maybe he's playing 3D chess, I'm not sure if more of the, older people, 40 plus years old, those Democrats are going to say, well, let's vote for Bernie next time. That kind of thing. So I'm pretty sure that Bernie, he has to run in 2020. Then also what's going on is that the DNC is in the middle of a lawsuit because of a fucking fraud and all the lying that they've committed during the primaries. And I mean, it could be a fucking huge deal depending on what these judges or the judge rules. If they find the DNC guilty of one count, if they find them guilty of all counts, what the judge determines that his court or the courts in general need to do towards the DNC. A lot of this shit is fucking important. And it's really problematic that Bernie Sanders hasn't talked about it. He hasn't criticized them at all for cheating him out of the fucking Democratic primary nomination because he'd have been president. And he really needs to be hitting them hard right now about how they committed all different sorts of forms of corruption and undermining the will of the people by lying and pushing Hillary Clinton over him when they were not supposed to do that. That was against their bylaws, and they shouldn't have done none of that shit. I mean, there's a whole bunch of issues with voting purges. There's in a few different states, but I really remember the ones that were in California. Even though it's kind of wrapped up because he had to win by a huge margin in California, I still heard there were voting purges in California, voting purges in New York City, especially in Brooklyn where he was born. There was the polling places closing in a few states. I think it was in Rhode Island was one. He still won that state. There polling places closed in Arizona especially. That was very notable. Then of course Bill Clinton went into some of the polling places in I think Massachusetts, which slowed up the voting in that state, or at least at those like one or two polling places he went to when he wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. That was corruption on the part of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Well, mostly just Bill Clinton, not Hillary, but he's her husband, so I mean that's partially her fault too. Let's keep it real. And then there's the cheating of the Nevada State Party, overthrowing the will of the state delegates. They overruled the Bernie Sanders delegates over some of the rules. I don't remember what rules it was, but there's quite a few other ways that the DNC is really overtly just undermining the will of the people and the Bernie Sanders campaign in a direct and illegal manner. And just him not criticizing now is a fucking problem. Oh, another issue he's having I think he's messing up on is he hasn't completely left the Democratic Party. He said, you know what, I'm going with the draft Bernie Party. And this itself isn't a flaw, because I got a video here of part of the Green Party business meeting.
Nashville, I have yet to meet, but my name is Tony Ndege. I'm co-chair. Jan Martel is our other co-chair. Jan, hopefully Wayne, who is our former longtime co-chair, will be on the way here, and he will also help out with some of the facilitation of the proceeding today. I'm just going to go over the agenda, which is obviously we're starting later than we ideally had liked to, but we will catch up and maybe take 5 minutes or so out of lunch to help catch up ourselves. So because we have basically food here that we can fix ourselves, so that's good. Anyhow. I'm going to go over the agenda for the spring gathering, and then Javier who is our assistant secretary, he will be basically sort of facilitating the overall proceeding and Parliament. He will explain the process.
Okay, and then this, I'll shorten it up a little bit, but all right, then after this, they just did personal introductions, and then they voted to have me stop filming because, I mean, it's a business meeting, so it's really only privy to the people at that meeting at the time. But also the problem with him running running in the draft Bernie party is that maybe if all you're interested in is having Bernie president of the United States, yeah, it's a good idea, because then there's no corruption he has to fight against. But one flaw about that is all you're worried about is Bernie Sanders being the president, and that's it? Because even though he has a lot of power, he's still one guy. Congress is still more powerful than the president and the executive branch. So Bernie would still need a lot of progressive people, or a lot of progressive politicians in the House and the Senate. And in reality, we still need a lot of progressives in state, county, and city positions, and all these different positions in government. So in the short term of just having him as the head of a draft Bernie party, it's good. But for the long term, for having real progressive change and really transforming the lives of Americans. For one thing, the problem with that is Bernie Sanders is the old guy. So say he dies in 6 years or so. Say he dies in 6 years. So after that, are you going to still keep it named the Draft Bernie Party, and it's just going to stay the Draft Bernie Party forever? Or are you going to change it to something different? Because, 30, 40, 50 years after, if the war lasts that long. After that, are you still really gonna want to call it the Draft Bernie Party after that, when maybe some people, or at least the people that are living at that time, aren't gonna really know about Bernie Sanders? It's not really gonna revolve around Bernie Sanders. So in the future, it's not really gonna be all that great of an idea or make a lot of sense for it to still be the Draft Bernie Party. And another problem with that is that he's going to be in an independent party, and then a lot of the corporate media, and actually for a lot of people that said, oh, well, I want Bernie, but in the general election you're saying, well, I don't want to vote for Jill Stein because she can't win. Well, all of a sudden, now maybe there's still a shot that he might not win it, because the votes may still be split between the Democratic Party and him. And he still has a shot to maybe the corporate media not wanting to put him on TV or have him in the debates, or fight him into preventing him from getting in debates. And that's just corruption and just keeping the political duopoly that we have, that continuously keeps our political system corrupt. At least helps keep it corrupt, and tries and really allows the donors to just keep their corporate power and their political power just in place as is. Then you just have to build the infrastructure of just creating a national office, and then having to build pretty much 50 state. Then you have the issue of building 50 state parties and just structuring all that together, and making sure that state parties can still work with the national party, and just funding each and every single state party, fight or just campaigning to get people to fund each state party and getting volunteers to start working towards, just building the structure of having an organized and well-running, political party. It's a tall task because you would have to start doing that. If you supported the Bernie and you want him to be in the draft Bernie party, you'd have to start doing things like going to the meetings and running the meetings that I just showed you earlier, and talking to people, and just of course you'd have to donate some money every now and then, maybe once a year, or just do it regularly to keep the party running. You'd have to fight to put your party on the ballots. You'd have to go and find candidates. I mean, it's a tall task. And for a lot of you that didn't want to vote for Jill Stein, you wanted Bernie to run, and you'd vote for Bernie in the draft Bernie party, you'd have to do a lot of work to push to make the party not just a party of just Bernie Sanders, but 50 state, just national party where you're ready to just run any candidates or a few candidates for a lot of different spots, in each state. And then you have to worry about congressional races too. And the president, it's a tall task. And if you don't like the idea of voting for the Green Party or volunteering for the Green Party right now, it's going to be tough. Well, I think it'd be tough for you to all of a sudden go and start doing all these same things for a draft Bernie party, because you're going to be having to do a lot of the things that I'm going to do, because I'm trying to build up the Green Party right now. And it's just plenty of work, and it's not going to be super exciting because it's going to be just a bunch of meetings, and you're going to be talking to people, trying to convince people to join the party and that kind of thing. So it's a tall task, and it takes a lot of people. It takes everybody. And Bernie's also missing the ball because he's not going to the Green Party, because by saying, you know what, I'm going to adhere to what some of the Green Party progressive policies that they require, I'm going to start upholding to those. I'm going to start upholding to those positions, so I don't want to compromise Green Party and make them, a lesser party than what they should be. So I'm going to say, you know what, I'm not going to talk about fighting ISIS. I'm not going to go and worry about we need to go and bomb ISIS groups. We're not going to do that. We're going to be pro-peace. We're going to pull out of all these damn conflicts and in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Somalia. We're not killing people over money anymore. We're going to make sure that we adhere to international law, treat people all across the world with respect. We're going to start, we're going to actually give out a little more assistance now, because we're not killing people for profit anymore. So, and then if he would join the Green Party, then he doesn't have to worry about building a party from scratch, because at least a lot of the infrastructure is already there for probably all the states. So yeah, some local, that'd be another thing, would be local offices and local branches would need to be built under a draft Bernie party. But even the Green Party needs to build some more, local branches of their party. But at least the national and the state, some of the state parties already built, that infrastructure set. And then another thing is that people can't just ignore the Green Party anymore, since corporate media purposely tries to restrict the Green Party's message from getting out. They can't do it anymore if Bernie's the head of the party, and that would make it easier for a lot of people that aren't in the know, that aren't political junkies like you are, so they'd be able to hear about the Green Party and vote for them or write them in because they'd hear about them a lot more often. Because we already know Bernie Sanders has great favorability ratings. So if he ran as a Green Party member, he would have won. He'd have swept the floor with Donald Trump, and he would have clobbered Hillary Clinton because a lot of independents and young people would have been pouring out for Bernie Sanders over both of those two candidates. So he definitely would have won if he ran as a Green Party member. And then Bernie Sanders joining the Green Party also gut the Democratic Party of its progressive base, and it'd be a shell of itself. So simultaneously him building up the Green Party would gut the Democratic Party, and a lot of people wouldn't be fighting to try to fix or reform the Democratic Party, because I don't think it's reformable, because a lot of the party's structure, and it's just built around, right now it's still built around corruption and securing that a lot of the corporate Democrats and the neoliberals stay in power over progressive. They've done a lot of shady and corrupt shit just to make sure that whenever progressives start to lean towards being able to take important seats, like the head of the California Democratic Party, they have super delegates and other shady ways of just undermining the voters and making sure they keep their power. So all that is really fixed. Since Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician right now, just one or a few moves that he makes can just create huge waves in our political system. And right now, I don't think he's doing them. And just a few moves, like joining the Green Party or joining the Draft Burning Party, would make huge waves, and it would really be a turn for the better and help out the people of the United States.